Luxury. That word alone makes people think of certain things. Designer stores, runways, European fashion houses, logos, and status. But lately, I've been asking myself a different question. What actually makes something luxury? Because if we're being honest, a lot of people today are not buying products because they're high quality. They're buying products because they want to feel successful. They want to feel included. They want to be seen. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized something. Black culture has spent decades defining what's fashionable, while industries decided which companies counts as luxury. And maybe it's time we rethink that. Because if Black culture has turned sneakers into high fashion and turned streetwear into global luxury, then maybe we also have the power to redefine luxury itself. Hey YouTube, my name is Camille and welcome back to my palace. Today I have another episode of Fashion by Black Culture, and in this video we are going to talk about how local businesses should be the new luxury. We're going to talk about psychology, consumerism, status, and identity, but more importantly, we're going to explore a bigger question. When it comes to luxury today, what are we actually buying? Consumerism is a social and economic belief that buying and owning material goods is the key to personal happiness and social success. The concept of consumerism spans two main categories: social status consumption, meaning spending for identity. It is a mindset that says if I own today's version of luxury, I am more valuable, successful, happy, and fit into a prestigious social status. Most people buy luxury items not for function, but for the image or lifestyle. They want to show it off at school, work, on social media, and or any other social event for validation. Then there's functional value consumption, meaning spending for quality. It is a mindset that says spending more money based purely on the belief that a higher price tag guarantees a physically superior, longer-lasting product. To them, buying means reliability, safety, and performance to avoid the risk of a cheap product breaking. But that's not always true. Brands understand this psychology perfectly, because brands are no longer just selling products. They're selling identity. They're selling the feeling of success, the feeling of exclusivity, the feeling of being important. They're selling products where branding often contributes more to the price than the materials themselves. And this affects everybody, but especially the Black community that historically had to use appearance as proof of status and validation. Sometimes fashion becomes a way to say I made it, I belong, I have value, and there's nothing wrong with wanting nice things, but I do think we should ask ourselves, do you really need the item you're buying? Are you buying these items because you truly value them, or because you want validation from other people? Because sometimes people buy products that they can barely afford just to feel included in lifestyle being marketed to them online, and corporations know this. Scarcity creates desire. That's why brands do limited drops, wait lists, exclusive releases, artificial scarcity, because the harder something is to get, the more valuable people believe it is, even if the actual product itself isn't that special. The logo has value because people believe it has value. The belief might be the most expensive things brands sell. And this is where I really started questioning modern luxury. Because what are people actually paying for? Take Prada's iconic re-edition nylon bag. The bag is made out of nylon, and as we all know, nylon is plastic. Prada advertises its bag as it is produced from recycled, purified plastic trash collected in the ocean, fishing nets, and textile wasted fibers. This sounds sustainable, right? Cleaning up the ocean. But the harsh chemicals used in factories to make the nylon for these bags are toxic to the factory workers. Also, the bag causes microplastic shedding, which is highly damaging to the environment. And while these companies market exclusivity, the environmental impact and labor conditions behind fast production often stays invisible. Not to mention, the Prada's re-edition bag costs around $2,200. People are paying luxury prices for a plastic-based material. Again, I'm not saying people shouldn't buy it. I'm simply asking whether the price reflects the materials, the craftsmanship, or the brand itself. And Prada isn't the only example. Think about luxury t-shirts. Some designer brands charge $500, $800, sometimes even over $1,000 for a basic cotton t-shirt. And if you remove the logo, most people couldn't tell the difference between that shirt and a high-quality, heavy-weighted cotton shirt from a smaller independent brand. Again, what are people paying for? The cotton, the brand name, the craftsmanship, or the status attached to it? A lot of luxury today is manufactured at scale, outsourced labor, factory production, machine assembly, but it's marketed as rarity, as craftsmanship, as exclusivity. And meanwhile, there are local artisans making products with far better craftsmanship. Handmade leather bags, custom denim, handmade jewelry, quality boots, tailored garments. People using full grain leather, heavyweight cotton, natural materials, real craftsmanship. And a lot of these creators will never get the same recognition as a global luxury house, even though the quality may actually be better. Because consumerism changed how people perceive value. Expensive became confused with meaningful. Unchecked consumerism can contribute to materialism, unnecessary debt, and environmental waste. Honestly, when I think about luxury, I don't think about a designer store. I think about a small Black-owned sewing business where I used to go to when I was younger. That's where I learned how to sew. That's where I learned about fabrics. That's where I learned how much work really goes into making a garment. And over the years, I built a relationship with the owner. Not a customer relationship, a real relationship. To the point where she's family to me now. And that's what made me start questioning what luxury really means. Because when I walk into a luxury store, nobody knows my name, nobody knows my goals, nobody knows my journey. But in that sewing studio, I wasn't just buying a product. I was learning a skill. I was building relationships. I was being mentored. I was becoming part of a community. And honestly, that's a luxury experience money can't always buy. That experience taught me something that many luxury brands never could. Craftsmanship has value. Relationships have value. Knowledge has value. Community has value. And maybe those things are worth more than a logo. The bag eventually wears out. The clothes eventually fade. But knowledge, relationships, and craftsmanships can last a lifetime. So maybe the real question is, what should luxury actually mean? Because maybe luxury isn't just logos and designer brands anymore. Maybe luxury is the experience. Maybe luxury is buying something handmade in your city, your state, your country. Maybe luxury is buying from businesses where the owner actually knows your name. Maybe luxury is knowing who made your clothes. Maybe luxury is craftsmanship, where there's care behind the product, where there's community behind the business. And yes, I do think supporting Black-owned businesses matter too. Not just because they're Black-owned, but because ownership matters. Circulating money through your own community matters. Supporting independent creators matter, especially when those same communities have already shaped global culture for decades. Black communities have spent decades creating cultural value for brands. We've helped determine what sneakers became iconic, what music became mainstream, what fashion became desirable, what trends became global. But maybe the next evolution isn't creating value for billion-dollar brands. Maybe it's creating value for ourselves. Because ownership is different than influence. Influence helps grow brands. Ownership helps communities grow. Imagine if the same energy people put into chasing luxury logos went into supporting skilled local creators. Imagine if people value craftsmanship the same way they value hype. Imagine if luxury became less about proving yourself to strangers and more about investing in things that actually have meaning. At the end of the day, I'm not telling people to never buy designer. Buy what you like, and importantly, buy what you need. Before we end, here's the bigger questions. Think about the last luxury item you bought. If the logo disappears tomorrow, would you still want it? Would you still pay the same price? Or would the luxury disappear with the logo? What would happen if we invested into local craftsmanship the same way we invested into big companies? Maybe local businesses aren't competing with luxury. Maybe they are luxury. Because Black culture has already shown the world that it can define what's cool. The music, the fashion, the sneakers, the trends, the language, the culture. So maybe the next step is defining what luxury looks like too. Not based on old European fashion standards, but based on craftsmanship, ownership, intentionality, community, and real value. And honestly, that might be the most powerful flex of all. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, bye guys.